Subscribe to Dr. Nightmare Channel now.
Story 1: The Last Delivery. It was the kind of summer night that made the air feel heavier than usual. The breeze barely moved, and even though it was nearly midnight, the heat still clung to the asphalt like it was afraid to let go. 17-year-old Damon Clark leaned on the grimy counter of Burger Den 24, a rundown fast food spot tucked between a boarded-up liquor store and an old hardware place that hadn't opened in years. He worked the late shift, mostly alone. His manager, Trish, usually disappeared into the office to do inventory, which Damon suspected was code for chain smoking and watching TikToks in peace. Business had been painfully slow. Damon had already wiped the counters twice, reorganized the sauce packets out of boredom, and started folding empty burger boxes just to kill time. He hoped the rest of the night would stay uneventful. But at 11:37 p.m., the old touchscreen terminal near the Friars buzzed with a new mobile order. 1 spicy Boss Burger. 1 strawberry shake. Delivery address: 74 Cinder Loop Road, Pinewell Industrial Park. Notes: back entrance only, knock 3 times, no phone calls. Damon stared at the screen for a moment. Pinewell Industrial Park? That place had been mostly abandoned for over a decade after a fire gutted one of the chemical plants. Still, he knew a few small companies still squatted in the outskirts of it. He was about to cancel the order. The store technically didn't deliver that far out, but then Trish popped her head out from the back. "You better take that one," she said with a yawn. "We haven't had a delivery in 2 hours, and corporate's cracking down on rejected orders." "But it's Pinewell," Damon protested. "Isn't that, like, condemned?" Trish shrugged. "We delivered there last month. Just take the damn burger, kid." Reluctantly, Damon wrapped up the food and slid it into one of the greasy thermal bags. He grabbed his phone, typed in the address, and tried not to notice how the route curved through a part of town even the GPS seemed hesitant to acknowledge. By the time he pulled off the main road and into the Pinewell Industrial Park, Damon's nerves had started to tighten. The streetlights ended 3 blocks back, and now his beat-up Toyota was guided only by the dull yellow beam of his headlights. Shadows stretched across the cracked pavement. Weeds had reclaimed much of the old driveways. Broken windows stared back at him like dead eyes. He finally found 74 Cinder Loop Road, a squat gray building with no signage. A long metal ramp led to the back of the building, and Damon followed the delivery note: back entrance only, knock 3 times. As he parked, he noticed something that made his skin crawl. All the windows had been painted black from the inside. He stepped out, gripping the thermal bag a little too tightly. The building gave off no light, no sound, just that terrible stillness you only notice when everything else is dead quiet. He climbed the ramp slowly and reached a steel back door. There was no doorbell, no keypad, just a long, rusted handle. He knocked 3 times. 1 second passed, then 2, and then a click. The door slowly swung open by itself. Damon's heart skipped a beat. "Hello?" he called out. No answer. He waited. Still nothing. He considered just leaving the food on the step, snapping a photo, and bolting. But before he could act, a voice drifted from the dark interior. "Come in, bring it here." The voice was odd. Not robotic, not inhuman, but like someone trying very hard to sound normal. Like someone practicing a script. "I can just leave it outside," Damon replied, backing up a little. "No," the voice said, more insistent now. "Bring it in. You came all this way." He peered into the darkness and saw a pale flicker, maybe a candle, somewhere down a narrow hallway. The sensible part of Damon screamed at him to leave, but something else, a mix of curiosity and that dumb teenage need to prove he wasn't scared, pushed him forward. He stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind him, hard. He froze. The hallway ahead was lit only by a few flickering emergency lights hanging crookedly from the ceiling that cast long shadows along the concrete floor. The air smelled strange, a mix of rust, something chemical, and something rotten. Hello? He tried again. A door creaked open halfway down the corridor. A figure stood in the doorway, not clearly visible, just an outline. It was tall, too tall, and didn't move. Damon swallowed hard. "Your order?" The figure slowly retreated into the room. Again, no words, just that eerie invitation. He followed cautiously, forcing his legs to move. He stepped into the room, which looked like it used to be a break area. Cracked tiles, overturned chairs, a broken vending machine. A single candle flickered on the table in the center. The figure was gone. But in the flickering light, he saw something that made his stomach turn. Dozens, maybe hundreds, of empty thermal food bags like the one he carried, all branded from different places. Pizza havens, taco shacks, Chinese takeout joints, some newer, some very, very old. And beside them, on the back wall, dozens of photos of all delivery drivers. Some smiling, some looking bored. Each photo had a date scrawled beneath it. The most recent one was dated yesterday. And under that photo was a handwritten sign. "Thanks for your service." That's when Damon dropped the bag and bolted. He sprinted back the way he came, heart in his throat, and slammed into the locked back door. He tugged and pulled, but it wouldn't budge. Then something whispered behind him. "Stay! You're part of the family now!" He spun. The figure was standing at the end of the hallway again. This time, it had many arms. Or were those shadows? And it was smiling. Damon screamed and backed into the door, pounding on it until the hinges rattled. Then, like it had a sense of mercy, the door swung open, and Damon fell backward onto the metal ramp. He scrambled to his feet, ran to his car, and peeled out of the industrial park like hell itself was chasing him. Back at Burger Den 24, Damon burst into the kitchen, pale and soaked in sweat. Trish looked up lazily from her phone. "Damn, took you long enough," she said. "What happened?" Damon could barely speak. He tried to explain what he saw, but the words came out tangled. Trish narrowed her eyes. 74 Cinder Loop Road? That place has been condemned for 15 years. You sure you went to the right address? "I saw photos, bags, a thing in the dark." She frowned. "That delivery must have been a mistake. Could be someone spoofing addresses. Don't worry about it." But Damon did worry. That night, he couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned until curiosity finally got the best of him. He pulled up the delivery app and searched past orders. No record of the delivery existed. No address, no receipt, nothing. He even tried driving back to Cinderloop in the daylight. But when he got there was no building. Just a burned-out lot filled with ash and broken concrete. No door, no ramp, no photos, no family. Just silence. And a single item laying in the middle of the ruins, a fresh thermal delivery bag from Burger Den 24. Story 2. what lived beneath the beach house. When Eric and Dana Wexler inherited the beach house from Eric's estranged uncle, they thought it would be a peaceful escape from the city. It sat on a quiet stretch of coastline in a sleepy Oregon town called Grey Rock Cove, a place so small it didn't show up on most GPS apps. The house was modest, just 2 stories, weather-worn but sturdy, with faded green shingles and a wraparound deck that overlooked the ocean. They'd only been married a year, and both were worn down from the chaos of their tech jobs in Seattle. The beach house seemed like a gift, a chance to recharge, reconnect, and maybe even consider starting a family. Eric barely remembered his Uncle Martin, who'd lived a reclusive life and passed away from a heart attack last winter. No one in the family had spoken to him in years. The will had been clear. To my nephew Eric, I leave the Grey Rock house. Do not renovate. Do not disturb the lower level. Use it wisely. They took that last part as the rambling of an old man. Lower level? The house didn't have a basement, just a crawl space under the deck. The first few days were peaceful. They slept with the windows open, walked the beach at sunset, and drank wine on the back deck while the waves crashed below. The town was quiet, the neighbors polite, but distant. But by the 4th night, Dana started hearing the sounds. It started around 3 a.m., the time when silence becomes unnerving instead of peaceful. She shook Eric awake. "Do you hear that?" Eric blinked groggily. "Hear what?" "That scraping noise, like something dragging across the floorboards, underneath us." Eric sat up. He listened, then shook his head. "Probably raccoons or something. This place is old. I'll check it out in the morning." But in the morning, there was nothing. Still, the noise came again the next night, this time accompanied by a low humming sound. Not quite music, not quite speech, just a steady, unnatural tone that seemed to vibrate through the floor. Dana was spooked. "I think there's something under the house," she said. Eric, reluctant to admit he was also uneasy, agreed to check. He grabbed a flashlight and went out through the back deck, crouching near the crawlspace entrance, a heavy, nailed-down wooden panel that blended with the support beams. He pried it open with a crowbar. A wave of cold air hit him like an exhale from the earth itself. "Just dirt," he called out. "No animals, no weirdos, probably pipes making noise." He was lying. What he saw in that crawl space still replayed in his mind for days after. Not just dirt, carvings, dozens of them, symbols etched into the foundation, circles, spirals, sharp lines like runes. And at the center of the dirt floor, something had been dug out and refilled. Recently. When he asked the locals, they all deflected. One old man at the bait shop finally said, "Martin didn't build that house for people. He built it for something else." Eric laughed it off. On the 6th night, the noise grew louder. Dana swore she heard breathing underneath the bedroom floor, a slow, deep inhale that vibrated through the mattress. Eric didn't want to tell her he heard it too. That morning, they found the deck door open, even though they'd locked it. Sand was scattered across the kitchen floor, but there were no footprints, just a strange, wet handprint smeared on the fridge. Dana wanted to leave. Eric convinced her to stay one more night. "We can't leave over weird noises. We'll check into a hotel tomorrow if it gets worse." But it did get worse. That final night, the house felt colder. The breeze carried a smell, salty but also foul like seaweed and decay. They tried to sleep, but the humming started again. This time it came with whispering, not English, not any language they could place. And then came the knock. Not on the door, on the floor. 3 soft, deliberate knocks from beneath the bed. Eric and Dana bolted upright. Dana screamed. Eric grabbed the lamp and yanked it from the wall for light. But it flickered and died. Then, from under the floorboards, came a voice. "You opened the seal." They didn't wait. They grabbed their bags and ran, barefoot, into the car. As Eric turned the key, the headlights flashed across the front of the house. Something was standing in the doorway. Not a person. Something tall, bent, damp, covered in barnacles and wet hair. Its limbs were too long, its jaw unhinged, and its eyes glowed a pale underwater green. It didn't chase them. It just watched them drive away. Weeks passed. Neither of them returned to the beach house. They called the county to report trespassers, but the sheriff's office just said, "You're the 3rd people to abandon that place. Best leave it be." Eric had nightmares. He kept dreaming of the thing under the floor, of being pulled down into the wet soil by cold, many-fingered hands. Eventually, he went back, alone, just to see if it was still real. The house was untouched, except for the crawl space. The panel was gone, and underneath, a perfectly round hole now gaped open, dark, breathing. At the edge of the hole, carved in the dirt, were the same words Eric remembered from his uncle's will. "Do not disturb the lower level." He backed away. As he turned to leave, the hole whispered his name. Story 3: The Disappearance Field. Everyone in Maple Grove knew the stories about Crowley Field, a wildflower-covered stretch of land just outside town that seemed to devour time and people alike. Kids whispered about it. Teenagers dared each other to bike past its rusted boundary fence, and older folks changed the subject whenever it came up. To 16-year-old Ben Rowe, it was just another urban legend. The field was technically private property, with a faded sign warning, "Keep out, research in progress," though nobody knew what research had ever been done there. The place had no cameras, no guard dogs, no real security. Just a locked iron gate and a sense of being watched. Still, none of that stopped him and his best friend Micah Wells from deciding to check it out one Saturday night in July. They'd spent the summer chasing harmless thrills, abandoned buildings, drainage tunnels, rooftop hangouts, but Crowley Field was the crown jewel of local dares. Ben was the cautious one. Micah was always pushing the limits. "You think it's just old farmer paranoia?" Micah asked as they stood by the gate, flashlights in hand. "I think if people went missing here, there'd be police tape." "Unless they never found bodies," Micah said with a grin, then hopped the gate. Ben sighed and followed. Crowley Field was oddly beautiful. Even in the dark, moonlight reflected off waves of tall, silver grass and purple wildflowers. The land stretched further than it looked from the road, seemingly infinite, with small rolling hills that distorted the horizon. They walked in for about 15 minutes, cracking jokes and stomping through thickets of weeds. No animal tracks, no birds either. Feels dead. Ben felt it too. The air didn't move here. Not a single sound. No crickets, no breeze, not even the usual distant buzz of cars or cicadas. Just silence. Then their flashlights flickered. Ben smacked his against his palm. Cheap batteries. But Micah's did the same. I brought new ones, he said, confused. They pressed on anyway, feeling the field shift from soft grass to dry, cracked soil beneath their shoes. That's when they saw it. A circle in the grass. Perfectly flat, perfectly round, about 12 feet wide. Nothing growing inside it. No weeds, no dirt, just blackness, not shadow, actual darkness, like light refused to enter it. Ben stepped toward it. "Wait!" Ben warned. "Let's not be dumb." Micah turned. "It's probably just old farmer paranoia, or—" Then the flashlights died. Both of them, at the same time. Complete darkness dropped like a curtain. Ben panicked and grabbed Micah's arm. "I don't like this," he whispered. "I'm right here," he whispered back. Then, total silence. Ben blinked. He was lying in the field, alone. The sun was rising. His heart was pounding, shirt damp with sweat. The field looked the same, except Micah was gone. Gone. He stood up, spinning in circles, yelling his friend's name. There were no signs of struggle, no footprints leading away. Just Ben standing in a field that now hummed with birds and buzzing flies and morning wind, like nothing had ever happened. He ran all the way back to the road. The police searched for him for 3 days. Helicopters, dogs, volunteers, no trace, no evidence. Ben told them what happened, but they didn't believe him. No one could. Micah Wells became one of the town's unsolved disappearances. Ben didn't sleep for weeks. He kept going back to the edge of the field, staring through the rusted fence, hoping Micah would just walk out, laughing. He never did. Then, 3 weeks later, Ben got a text from Micah's phone. It just said, "Where are you? I'm still here." Ben stared at the screen for an hour. Then he drove to Crowley Field again, alone this time, flashlight in hand, middle of the night. He hopped the gate. The circle was back. Same size, same shape, same absence of light. He stepped toward it, and this time he heard something, a voice distant, underwater. "Help me!" It sounded like Micah. Ben dropped to his knees at the edge of the circle and shouted his name. Suddenly, something grabbed his arm. Cold, thin, not human. Ben yanked himself backward. The hand vanished, but on his wrist, left behind, was a perfect handprint, burned into his skin like frostbite in the shape of fingers. He never went back after that. He tried texting the number again. It didn't exist. Eventually, he stopped talking about Micah, stopped visiting the field, stopped trying to explain. But some nights, when the air gets really still and the moon is just right, Ben swears he sees the field from his bedroom window, and in it, he sees someone standing in the circle waving. But it's not Micah anymore. Story 4. Cabin Echoes. The plan was simple. 4 friends, 1 cabin, and a full week off the grid. It was supposed to be a break from screens, city noise, and responsibilities. Just campfires, card games, and cold beer in the deep woods of Vermont's Rook Pine Forest, where the only reception came from pine trees. Liam, Devin, Marissa, and Theo had been friends since freshman year of college. It was Devon's idea to rent the cabin. He'd found it online, an old hunting lodge built in the 1940s, long abandoned but recently refurbished by a reclusive couple who offered it as a vacation rental. The photos looked rustic and cool. The price was shockingly low. That should have been the first red flag. The cabin sat on a narrow gravel path 3 miles from the nearest paved road, trees pressed in tight around the property. No neighbors, no cell signal, just silence, broken only by the occasional bird or rustling branch. At first, it was everything they wanted. They unpacked, explored the place, made dinner over a fire pit, laughed and drank under the stars. But by the second night, Liam started hearing the whispers. He didn't tell the others right away. It started small, just faint murmurs in the cabin's rafters when the wind picked up, a little hiss in the chimney that almost sounded like his name. He assumed it was the alcohol, or wind distortion, or sleep deprivation. But it got worse. On the third night, he woke up in the middle of the night to a voice calling out, "Liam, get up! Come see!" It was soft but close, not outside, inside the cabin. He sat up, eyes scanning the dark. Everyone else was asleep. Theo snored, Marissa was curled under her blanket, Devon was out cold in the other room. Liam got out of bed and stepped into the hallway. He froze. A second Liam stood at the end of the hall. Same build, same messy hair, same flannel shirt. The figure turned, locked eyes with him, and smiled. Liam stumbled back into the room, slammed the door, and woke Theo up in a panic. When they opened the door again, the hallway was empty. Theo thought Liam had a nightmare. But the next night, Marissa heard it too. A voice whispering her thoughts back to her. Not out loud, not a dream, just her own voice echoing from inside the walls. "I'm scared. Something's wrong. I want to go." Whispers she hadn't said out loud, only thought. She told Liam the next morning. His face went pale. They both agreed not to tell Devon, the self-declared skeptic who'd booked the cabin, until they had more to go on. But by night 5, they didn't have to. Because Devon went missing. They woke to find his bed empty, his boots gone, and the front door wide open. A trail of muddy footprints led into the woods, barefoot and deep as if dragged. They followed the trail for half a mile, shouting his name. Then the trail ended, just stopped. No body, no Devon, just a thick wall of trees and silence. Theo started panicking. He wanted to leave, but their car battery was dead. No cell signal, no tools. The backup generator only powered lights and the water pump. They decided to wait one more night, pack up in the morning, and hike to the ranger station at dawn. But the cabin wouldn't let them sleep. That night, Liam heard whispering behind the walls again. This time it wasn't his voice. It was Devon's. "Why did you leave me?" Theo heard his own laugh echoing through the floorboards from a memory that hadn't happened yet. Marissa heard screaming under the bed. When she looked, there was nothing there until the floorboards started breathing, rising and falling like lungs. Then came the knocking. Knock, 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 knock. From every wall, every direction. They ran to the main room, desperate, frantic. That's when the lights cut out. And from the pitch black, they all heard the same whisper, not in English, not in any language they knew, but they understood it just the same. "This place remembers you now." In the morning, the cabin was empty again. Liam woke up alone. Theo and Marissa were gone, their clothes still folded, their beds made. The car battery, dead. The radio, static. He ran outside screaming their names, only to hear them calling back from inside the woods. He stepped toward the tree line,
and saw himself watching from behind a pine tree. The other Liam smiled again, then turned and vanished. Liam ran. It's been 6 months since anyone's seen him. The police found the cabin empty, undisturbed, food still in the fridge, the beds made, no signs of struggle, no bodies. But the next set of renters, a young couple from Boston, left the cabin in the middle of the night after reporting mirror people standing outside every window. The listing was taken down a week later. Locals say the cabin still stands deep in Rook Pine Forest. They say if you step inside and speak your thoughts out loud, the cabin remembers them and it keeps them. Some believe the building itself is alive. Others think it's a place where your reflection becomes the real you and you become the shadow. Whatever it is, it doesn't let everyone leave.
Story 5. Room 209 wasn't on the map. Elliot Granger was spending his summer working maintenance at Redfern University, a quiet, ivy-covered college nestled in a forgotten corner of upstate New York. It was the perfect in-between job, low effort, low stress, and good pay. With most students gone for the summer, the dorms were quiet, and Elliot had the run of the place. He was assigned to Dunbridge Hall, one of the oldest dorms on campus. Its creaky floors, arched windows, and narrow hallways had been home to generations of students, and, according to rumor, at least 2 ghosts. Elliot didn't believe in ghosts, at least not until he found room 209. The first time he noticed it, he was double-checking the floor schematics to inventory which rooms needed repainting. Floor 2 had 20 rooms listed. Room 209 wasn't one of them. But when Elliot walked the hall that day, keys jingling in one hand, clipboard in the other, he passed 20 rooms like expected. And then, at the far end of the hallway, where the wall was supposed to be, was a door. A door that hadn't been there yesterday. No number, no label, just a brass handle and a keyhole. He turned to check his clipboard again, then looked back. This time, a faded brass plaque was bolted to the door. 209. The lights flickered above him. Elliot stared at the door for a moment, then moved on. He figured maybe someone added a storage room and hadn't updated the schematics. He made a note to ask his supervisor. But when he mentioned it to Linda, the longtime facilities manager, her reaction was strange. She looked up from her sandwich and said, "You mean 210? "No," I said, 209. "There is no 209, she said flatly. "I saw it, end of the hallway." Linda's smile dropped. "Don't joke about that." "I'm not joking. It was just a door." Linda stood up, face pale. "If you see it again, don't open it. Ever. And don't talk about it again. Not to me, not to anyone." He thought she was just being dramatic. Maybe it was an old office with bad history. Maybe a prank. But the next time Elliot walked the second floor, room 209 was gone again. Wall. Just solid wall. No outline, no marks, like the door had never existed. He started to feel like he had imagined it. Until the third week, when he saw it again. Same spot, same door, only this time the plaque didn't say 209. It said Elliot. He stepped back, heart pounding, his name carved in brass. He reached for the handle. It was ice cold, and it turned easily. He pushed the door open. The room inside was dark, silent, smaller than a dorm, more like a closet but without any shelves. Just 4 walls and a single wooden chair in the center, lit by a bare bulb swinging from the ceiling. On the chair sat a cassette player. Beside it, a single tape, labeled, "Do You Remember?" He stepped inside. The door slammed shut. The light turned red. The tape started playing. It was his voice, a recording of him crying. "Please, I want to leave. I didn't know. I didn't know it would take them." Then another voice, not his, not human. "You remembered. That's all it needs." He backed toward the door, but the walls began to shift, stretching outward, expanding into a hallway, his own hallway, Dunbridge Hall, but off, too long, too curved, lights buzzing in strange frequencies, and in the distance he saw himself walking towards him. Another Elliot, older, pale, eyes hollow, mouth moving without sound. And behind that version of himself, dozens of others followed, each wearing his face, each slightly wrong. Some were burned, some distorted, one walked upside down, one dragged a third leg behind it. He ran. The hallway stretched, folded, collapsed into itself. He kept running. Then, silence. Elliot awoke in his dorm bed, heart racing, shirt damp. It was morning. Sunlight poured through the windows. Had it all been a dream? He leapt out of bed, grabbed his keys, and ran to the second floor. At the end of the hallway, solid wall, no door, no room 209, no plaque. He asked Linda about it again. She just stared at him, horrified. "You went in, didn't you?" He didn't answer. She whispered, "Then it won't stop." That night, Elliot's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Thank you for remembering." He deleted it. The next morning, room 209 was back, plaque freshly polished. This time, the plaque didn't say his name. It said, Linda.